Joyful blessings. This is Kaylin Castell, and we have an amazing out of bounds, and I will say extremely out of bounds for the time period that the out of bounds moons can happen on December 15th, 2024, less than a week before the exact December solstice, which is also an amazing time that we won't share about here, but you can see some other videos that I'll put in the show notes that will speak more into the December solstice. So this is illuminating even more extreme crazy wisdom. And the reason that I say that is because the out of bounds moon is uh, outside the boundaries of our ordinary reality. And Gemini is very much about crazy wisdom. So here's just a couple of crazy wisdom quotes to get us started and into the energy of crazy wisdom. So I'm not crazy. I'm just special. No, wait, maybe I am crazy. Wait, 1 second. I need to talk to myself about this. Hold on. And then we could say, shut up, I'm still talking. Anyway, so Walt Disney also said that laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, and dreams are forever. And this very much fits in with the Gemini energy and laughing and not taking ourselves so seriously. Very important for a Gemini full moon. So to take a deeper dive into the crazy wisdom, just here's some things that have been said about crazy wisdom. This comes from Pak Repinche, I hope I said that right. Real crazy wisdom is looking at all the ideals and expectations of your culture and going in exactly the opposite direction, which is brilliant crazy wisdom, because what's expected of us is maybe not what is true for us. So going in the opposite direction might be the best thing for us to possibly do and not do what's expected or what we think is expected. And then Gemini is a trickster energy. It's similar to Kokopelli as an example of crazy wisdom and not being too serious. And there were cultures that saw Kokopelli as being, the Native American culture saw Kokopelli being in the moon, in the full moon. So you can kind of see it here. It's not the best example, but it's an okay example of that. And then we see that sometimes other cultures saw the rabbit being in the full moon. So, and you can kind of see if you took Kokopelli, and this one's kind of more upside down, but it depends on how the moon is rising and your viewpoint from where you are on the planet. Anyway, so crazy wisdom is also related to a Tibetan term, and I'm not sure how to say this at all. Drubnunyan, I don't know, defined as combining exceptional insight and impressive magical power with a flamboyant disregard for conventional behavior. So this is again the possibilities and perhaps even if you can only do it at the time of this full moon, and let's say it's a 3-day window, so December 14, 15, and 16, sometime in there, just being just going beyond what's expected in conventional behavior, but also remaining kind and not being hurtful or harmful to anyone. And Albert Einstein reminded us that only those who attempt the absurd will achieve the impossible. So these are all aspects of crazy wisdom that we can tune into. Now, I like this cartoon that somebody climbing up to the high heights to meet with a master, and the master says, "The meaning of life, eh? Beats me. Let's Google it." Which fits in with what the masters of enlightenment and crazy wisdom are about, because they are not asking us to believe them. Rather, they respond to our questions with further questions or with riddles and parables. And they teach crazy wisdom just by being themselves. And I feel like this cartoon is kind of sums that up in a sense. So if we watch closely, we might learn from them how to live with simple acceptance, sorry, with simple acceptance of and even greater love for life. Little typo there, a little crazy, unexpected energy coming in. Interesting. It's Gemini magic is at work. And the poet Rumi saw all phenomena, including the self, as transitory expressions of a divine intelligence. And that is so powerful just to consider that. And with that understanding, he found great love and acceptance for the way things were in the one cosmic dance. So this quote from Rumi is really kind of summing up the Gemini perspective, if we think of the fool in the tarot card jumping empty-handed into the void, that is a very Gemini expression. And so Rumi said, give up owning things and being somebody. Quit existing. Jump empty-handed into the void. And you won't fall. You'll probably learn how to fly. So that's the possibility that exists for us in this Gemini full moon. That's also being amplified by Jupiter because the moon is passing Jupiter as it's reaching its exact full point, and is within about 8 degrees of Jupiter at the time of the full moon. So also so Jupiter amplifies and magnifies whatever is happening. So that's magnifying this full moon. And Saturn is also in a close square to Jupiter within a couple of degrees. And so it's suggesting it's a powerful time to implement our visions and possibilities into 3D form. And then Neptune is very close to the North Node, as you can see here. It's within like 3, 4, 5 degrees, about 5 degrees. And it's going to stay within 5 degrees until early May of 2025, making the exact conjunction on February 7th. So this energy is present with us long past this full moon. And it's suggesting that we have an opportunity to connect to the field of all possibilities. And if we think about Neptune as that energy of all possibilities, and one of the reasons that we can have challenges with Neptune and defining our purpose and our direction and where we're going is when all the possibilities exist and you're connected to all of them, what do you choose? So then you might start taking things off the table and starting to look at like what would be most alive and aligned for you. What is your dream, your vision, your possibility? And so this is a very big energy. It's also square the moon. Neptune is square the moon, not an exact square, but it's in square to the moon. So dreaming into the field of all possibilities. And this is adding to our ability to dream into new possibilities as it relates to our destiny, personally and collectively, because it's conjunct the North Node, as well as being square this full moon. So a lot of possibilities are available to us at the time of this full moon. Now, another thing that's happening is that this full moon is occulting a star known as Elnath, and it marks one of the tips of the horns of the bull. So here we can see Jupiter. The moon has just passed Jupiter before it reaches full. Between the horns of the bull, this is the bull constellation, and it's occulting going over Elnath, and it's extremely out of bounds. So this is green line is the path of the ecliptic. It's the path of the planets, and you can see how Jupiter is very close to that. In fact, 23.5 degrees is as far as the sun can go off this exact path, but other planets can go outside the boundaries. Now, the moon is passing in front of a star also known as Beta Tauri, but we like to call it Elnath, and it's creating a lunar occultation that's visible from South America and Central America. And although this occultation won't be visible to everyone across the planet, is in certain areas, um, it's it's it will be very close. So you'll see the full moon very close to this star wherever you are on the planet. And so just the idea of an occultation is that it is similar to an eclipse in that it's covering and uncovering. So in an eclipse, it's either the moon covering and uncovering the sun, or the earth passing between the sun and the moon. So it looks like the earth is casting its shadow on the moon. So these are acceleration points and amplify intentions, and so if you think about this full moon um, as a possibility of amplifying anything with this occultation, amplifying whatever it is that's happening. This series of lunar occultations, because of the lunar standstill, and I'll put a link into the lunar standstill video I did so you can have a deeper understanding if you don't really understand that. It began in September of 2023 and lasts until April 11th of 2027. So these occultations are going to continue, but the full moon doesn't happen every month. It'll be different phases of the moon going over this star. So this is just another opportunity to remember that from a full moon to a full moon is 29 and a half days, but from the moon coming back to the same point is 27.3 days. So 29 and a half, there's usually 12 full moons in a month in a year, and but 13 times that the moon will pass a specific star in a year. So just to keep that in mind, that there's a difference in that about every third year we will have 13 full moons in a month. So this is the next closest full moon to this star is going to be on December 13th, 2027, but it's not going to be an occultation. So we have a rare opportunity here. And so here's again the idea of the moon going outside the boundaries of the sun. And if we think of the sun can rise and set along the horizon, so here's the sun at the equinoxes. Here it is at the June solstice furthest north and the December solstice furthest south. And then the moon, well, actually, I forgot to update this part of it, but the full moon is going to be December 20 or December 15th, and it's actually at 28:44, not 24:24 like it was last year. So it's even further out of bounds this year than it was last year. And the new moon is going to be at 28 degrees past the boundaries of the sun. And so the sun rises and sets along the horizon. And if you watch at the different seasons where it is rising and setting on your horizon line, you could get a sense of what the boundaries are of this reality. So, pretty cool to consider this. Now, something to also know is that Mars is going out of bounds on December 30th, 2024, and will be out of bounds until April 6th of 2025. So when planets are outside the boundaries, it can disrupt what is known. It can expand possibilities in extraordinary ways. And when the moon or another planet is in Gemini and Cancer or Sagittarius and Capricorn, is when the out of bounds time is possible. It doesn't always happen with that. There are times when the moon is in these signs and it doesn't even go out as far as the sun goes out, that we refer to as the inner standstill. And currently, right now, it's the outer standstill going out beyond the boundaries of the sun. So, just a deeper look into what's going on here, a series of 49 moon occultations over Elnath that began on September 7th, 2023, and lasts until April 11th of 2027. So here you can see the moon is getting ready to occult or pass over the top of Elnath. And it amplifies the light codes of these stars coming to Earth. The moon is a transmitter, so it's transmitting powerful, powerful energy. And here is the ecliptic, and here's how far the moon is off that path. And that is why this series of occultations is happening. And this is also near the galactic edge where we look out beyond our galaxy. We look out into space beyond our galaxy. And then this is the Pleiades here at 0 Gemini, Aldebaran here at 10 Gemini, Alheka, the other horn of the bull, at 25 Gemini, and Elnath at 23 Gemini. So I'm going to share a little bit more about that in a moment, but it's because of the out of bounds moon that we're having this amazing full moon that won't happen again, anything similar to this for a good 19 years. So here we go. There will be another time the moon is going to be close to this part of the sky in 2033, as I mentioned, but it's not going to be occulting Elnath then. Okay, so the horns of the bull are pointing to galactic center. And also the bull constellation is in Gemini, as we've talked about, and I showed in the last slide. Now, if you want to understand more about this, there is a 15-minute look at the difference between signs and constellations, and I'll put the link in the show notes. The horns of the bull are pointing towards the June solstice, where the June solstice sun currently rises. And so this entire constellation is overlaid by the seasonal sign of Gemini. And that represents the 30 days, the season before the sun reaches the exact June solstice point of 0 Cancer. And so here's the summer solstice point, and the moonrise on the night of the 15th is going to be past even the summer solstice point, and it has gone traveled quite a ways because the full moon is happening at 2:01 a.m. Mountain Time. So that would be like 1:01 a.m. Pacific Time and 4 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can adjust for your time zone. And again, here's the out of bounds moon. It's at 2814. So it is the most it can ever be out of bounds is around 28.5, I think, almost 29, but it doesn't ever quite get to 29 that I've ever seen. Anyway, so pretty exciting. And then you can see that some of the things that we saw in the last slide, but this has some of the asteroids in here for those people who are interested in adding that information in. Now, here's another star map that shows the bull, and there's the horns of the bull and how the moon is going over Elnath. It's showing also the galactic cross where the summer solstice sun happens to rise at this time. And again, this is the season of Gemini, and the season of Cancer is now currently in the twins because this is the 0 Cancer point, and the sun moves through. And as it gets out around here, it moves into Leo. And so the crab is now overlaid by Leo. Mars is here. It's gone retrograde around 6 degrees Leo, so it's still very close to that point. And it's in the constellation of the crab, even though it's in the sign of Leo. So the horns of the bull are on the eastern edge of the Milky Way, near where the ecliptic crosses the plane of the galaxy, creating another galactic cross at the galactic edge. So this is why this is so significant. And we have the sun getting ready to be on the galactic cross at the galactic center for the December solstice that happens within less than a week of this exact full moon. Now, the reason that the bull constellation has been so significant and has played such an important role in ancient mythology is because it includes the Egyptian concept of entering the Elysian fields. And here you have an image of what the Elysian fields might look like. Their story is that the hero or heroine must pass the bull that guards the route to the west or to the entrance point to the Elysian fields. And in Greek and Roman mythology, this was the home of the blessed, a location or state of ideal happiness, also known as paradise. How cool is that? So in classical mythology, the Elysian fields was a blessed place of peace and beauty. So here we have a full moon exactly on one of the horns of the bull that is there guarding the entrance point to these Elysian fields, and the possibility that we have of showing up and basically it's suggesting that it's time to have the courage and strength to enter this new possibility as we enter a new solar and galactic year with the December solstice less than a week away. And the question to ask is if you're brave enough to encounter the bull who is testing you and determining if you have the exceptional strength needed to pass through this gateway to a better life into the Elysian fields. Are you willing? Are you ready? Are you uh, accepting this opportunity that this full moon is offering us, and at least having the intention that you can do that, as the moon is occulting. And to me, that's really opening the portal and the doorway to the Elysian fields in a spectacular way that does not happen very often. To have a full moon in its extreme out of bounds, occulting Elnath, and having this mythology and this understanding is just miraculous. Now here again, this is Jupiter inside the bull, the horns of the bull. Here's the moon on the one of the tips of the horns of the bull. Here is the solstice sun rising on the galactic cross at galactic center. And again, this out of bounds moon, so spectacular that's happening. So it just gives you a little bit we can see Mars. It's just again in the crab. And let's see, and Uranus is getting ready to enter. It's going to align with the Pleiades later this year. So there's some really cool things that are happening. So stay tuned for more about those things. Now, every Gemini full moon, because the Pleiades is up here. The Pleiades is at zero Gemini. Most of the stars of the Pleiades have now entered into the Gemini point. So this is considered to be the entrance point when planets are entering into the sacred hoop of stars. And this is showing the moon before it gets actually to its full moon point. And so the Lakota and other native tribes felt it was auspicious and worth noting when planets were passing through this part of the sky. And so it's here as it's entering Gemini, and then it exits around 24 degrees or so of Cancer. It's exiting this sacred hoop of stars. So you see that the Native Americans had this idea of the sacred hoop with the cross in the center. And this is the circle of stars, not a perfect circle here, but and with the cross in the center. So, of course, this was considered the sacred hoop of stars. Now, the this is another image that just kind of points out the different stars that mark the outer hoop as described by the Lakota, beginning with the Pleiades and extending to Castor and Pollux, and also Procyon, which is this star, which is around 25 Cancer, and the Pleiades is 29 Taurus. One of the stars is still at 29 Taurus, and the rest of them are at zero Gemini. And so it looks more like a shield in this drawing, but kind of gives you this idea of the circle and the cross. And again, the seasonal sign points, the seasonal points, say of zero Cancer, the June solstice, longest day and shortest night in the northern hemisphere, and opposite in the southern hemisphere. So it's a seasonal experience that we're having, and that it's at the center of this sacred hoop of stars. So this full moon is within that, occulting one of the horns of the bull. And if we think about the white buffalo, and they have horns also, so it could be considered a buffalo constellation, depending on your culture and who's defining what's happening there. But the white buffalo calf woman prophecy, black elk prophecy, and the sacred hoop all come together with the Lakota. And so White Buffalo Calf Woman, she gave the Dakota, the gift of knowledge about the sacred hoop, and she taught them 7 sacred ways to pray. And she promised that one day she would return. So, and that would be symbolized by the birth of a white buffalo calf. Now, the first one that came into the world was in 1994, and this white buffalo calf was named Miracle. In a night in 1990, well, I'm sorry, in 1993, the first white buffalo calf was born when there were less than 500 buffalo in the world. The one that got all the attention was in 1994 when Miracle was born. And now today there are at least 50 white buffalo out of an estimated 500,000, with ones being born pretty much every year. It's like starting to gain momentum. And so this is a sign prayers are being heard and the promises of the prophecy are being fulfilled. So this year on June 4th, 2024, in Yellowstone National Park's Larimer Valley, a white buffalo calf was born named Wakan Glee, or I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. It's a Lakota name meaning return sacred. And so this connects us back into Black Elk's prophecy. He lived from 1863 to 1950, and he had a vision of the sacred hoop bringing all nations, all people back into harmony with each other. And he saw it would take 7 generations from the time of the massacre at Wounded Knee, and that happened in 1890, to heal the wounds and trauma of that event. 7 generations would be around 2040. So we're getting close to this time. And I feel like this full moon is really opening the door for this to become an even greater reality already at this time. It's so exciting. So this is the possibility we connect with this. So be sure to check out the show notes for additional articles and videos. If you want to subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. It's really building a platform here, and I put out new videos several times a month. The more and also for more on the zodiacal constellations and how the seasonal signs are moving, I'm going to put a link. Also, we have some classes on the magical Bohemian stars and the stellar gateways, as well as the zodiacal constellations, and why we're really working on bringing together the knowledge of the constellations and of the seasonal signs, bringing them back together because they got split apart. And when we bring those two things and the understanding of those two things together, we return to a greater wholeness in our understanding of the sky. So, with all of that, thank you so much for the possibility of creating the paradise that is our birthright and that this full moon is helping to bring forth. So, hoping that everyone has an amazing magical full moon and December solstice.